Welcome to my Learn HTML5 in 15 minutes tutorial. In this video, I'll be covering all the mainly used skills to use HTML, and by the end of the video, you should have a clear understanding of what HTML is and how to use it. So before we start learning how to use HTML, what is it? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language and is one of the two main languages to create basic websites. It is definitely not a programming language and doesn't have loops, if statements, or anything a programming language can do. HTML is the code that defines the structure and the content of a web page, while CSS, which is the other language that makes websites, is to give style to that structure and make it look nice. Both aren't hard to learn, so without further ado, let's get started on the HTML first. Okay, so first things first, let's create a new folder. In this case, I already have one called website, and just an empty folder. So behind me here I have a text editor or code editor, and anyone will be fine, but I'm using brackets for this tutorial. And yep, so I have this website folder, and all I'm going to do is just going to drag it in so I can work in it. Alright, website. So let's click Control N, and that creates a new file. If you're on a different text editor, you can just click File, New, and basically I'm going to click Control S now to save the file, and I'm going to call it index.html. Now the reason why is because most home pages, they are called index, and the prefix is HTML as it is an HTML file. So I want to save it, and now we can get started in this tutorial. So I'm using live editing here, which means that whatever that I type on this screen will appear here in in the browser. So this is a feature by Brackets, which is a code editor. It's really cool, and I suggest you to go and download it. But if you don't have it, it's fine. Okay, so first of all, let's create the basic layout of how a HTML file will look like. So to start off web page, we're going to type in the doc type, which defines the web page, and then we're going to type in here HTML, and this basically surrounds the whole HTML. It's another tag, and the basic layout of the file will have a head, and in the head we're going to have our title. Now don't mistake this as like the website title, but it's going to be the tab title. Okay, and we'll just call this here my website. Okay, and in here we can also add extra information such as the language, char set, different aspects, but we won't do this in this tutorial. And then we're going to have our body tag, and in the body tag is basically what is going to be seen on the web page. So this includes the header, the navigation, pictures, images, videos, different things like that. We'll leave that empty for now. Okay, and inside of that we're going to make 3 sections. So the first section is the header, and then we're going to use the header tag for that. Now keep in mind that this is HTML5, and HTML5 has these new tags, which include the header section, which is basically the main section of our website, and the footer. You can see here that this is changing because I'm live editing. So that's pretty cool. So usually the header will be where we put our logo and navigation. The section is our main content. Our footer is the copyright symbols and possibly another navigation. Let's start with the header. So now I'm going to learn some more tags, and there aren't actually, well, there are a lot of tags, but there are only a few that you're going to be using constantly. So one of the most common ones you're going to be using are the header tags. So there's 6 of these. There's H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Now these tags, they look different. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go with H1. Let's go hello. And if you look on the left, you can see here it's pretty big. Right. Now let's change this. Okay, to H2. Ready? It goes a little bit smaller. Okay. If we change it to H3, by the way, I'm using multi-select here. It goes even smaller. 4, smaller. 5, smaller. And 6, even small. It's the smallest. So this, therefore, you can vary in size and weight. I'm going to use this as H1, and I'll call this here website HTML. Okay, so that's our header. And for our navigation, we're going to make an unordered list. So an unordered list is UL. Okay, so what this does, if you make this tag UL, alright, inside here you can make list items. So these list items are called LI, and here you can type in like home, about, contacts, and finally you can also do blog. So that's an unordered list. Now an unordered list only has bullet points, as you can see here. If we change this to an OL, and OL is a ordered list, you can see numbers appear. But we don't want that for navigation. Let's change that. Oops. Let's change that back to LI. Oh, sorry, not LI. What am I doing? UL. Okay. Cool. So that's like the basics of the header. Now in the section area, we can type in a different, like the content. So let's make a paragraph. Now the paragraph is very easy to remember. It's just a P tag. Okay, and in here we can just type in some dummy text. I'm just going to put some lorem text in here. Oh, it didn't work. Hello there. My name is Joseph, and I like to code. So you can see right there. And if we make another paragraph, hello there, you can see there's a line in between, and it kind of separates it, kind of like a paragraph. Now, what if you just want one line break? So you didn't want like 2 line breaks, you just want 1. That's pretty easy. So you want to put it right there, in between hello and there. Now we can use the break, the line break. So we're just going to go BR. And that just breaks these 2 words together into lines. If you want like a horizontal line, just do HR, which means horizontal line. Let's see that. Let's put that here. So I put the HR in between the paragraphs, so right here, and you can see there's a line that appears in between. That's like a little breakage separator. And yes, that's the little section done. And now let's edit the footer. So the footer is where basically we type in website HTML, and this is our website name. And then we can put the and sign and that. Oh, sorry, not that. Copy. And that basically outputs a copyright sign, as you can see right there. And then 2014. We can also edit some elements in this section. So what we could get rid of this, and let's say we want to have 2 sections inside a section. So instead of using another section tag, we can use a div. And now a div is a very commonly used divider. It's called a division. So we'll call this div. And here, type in here div1. Oops. And here div2. Oops, div. Now in the next few tutorials, I'm going to be teaching you guys CSS in a few minutes as well. And that uses something called IDs and classes. So if we want to, let's say, make this one here a color of red and this one here a color of gray, we need to specify them using IDs or classes. Now to assign an ID or class to a div, we can use right here, we'll go ID equals, and we'll call this here div1. And here ID equals div2. So now these 2 are separated. So that's what divs are. Now we can also add some. Let's say I want to make this bold. You could use B, so div1, and you can see now it's bold. Or you can also do strong. That's another variation. So div1. Now for the div2, you can also do italics. So you can do I, and that'll make it, as you can see here, slanty. And yep. Okay, so now let's create a anchor tag or a link in div2. So a link is created by an anchor tag. So use the a tag, and inside the a tag there are a few elements. There's href, which is the hyperreference, and we can hyperreference that to any site like google.com. OK. And here we can just type in the text of Google. So when we click on that, it'll go to google.com, which is pretty cool. Let's just separate that. Cool. So now we know how to make links, and that's really easy to make links. You can even give that an ID of Google link, so we can target that when we want to style it. Okay. So now let's make an image. Let's learn how to create an image. Let's make another div with an ID of image. And in my file explorer here, let's make a folder called images. And inside of here, I'll paste in an image that I got previously. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click F2, and I'm going to copy this file name. And in the div, I'm going to use the img tag and use an src. And what src stands for is source. Let's just get rid of this. And equals, and this is basically the path. So I'm going to say images slash and then the name dot png. Remember the extension at the end. This text editor is pretty cool because you can see it shows a preview of the image. And as well as the source, we're going to have another attribute called out. And this is basically for SEO, and if your image is unavailable, you can't see the image, it'll display the text instead. I'm going to call this WordPress image, considering this is a WordPress image. So let's close that off. And now, as you can see here, our image is loaded on our webpage. Right there you can see. It's pretty big, but that's fine. And if it's a bit big and you want to change the width, that's easy as. You can also change the attribute. So you can go width, and let's go say 20 pixels. Exterior goes really small right there. It's a bit too small. Let's go 100, 300. Okay. And we could also do a height of 300. Yes, it's a bit not scaled, but yeah, you get the hang of that. So that's how you make images. It's pretty easy to use. Okay, so now we've looked at IDs. Let's take a look at what classes are. So an ID is an individual element. For example, a div of div2 is individual because only this div is going to have this specific styling. Now a class, let's say you have a list item, right? List item. And let's give this a class of, let's say, fancy li. Now what this fancy li does, you can copy this to all the list items, and therefore all of these LIs will have the same styles. Okay, oops. Copy this. They'll all have the same styles. So let's say only these fancy LIs have italics. So then you can go into the styles and you can change that up. So that's the difference between ID and classes. Classes are for multiple elements, IDs are for individual elements. That's the difference. Okay, now let's delete everything from this section again, just so we can keep this clean. And now let's look at spans. So let's say you have a paragraph tag. Let's say hello. My favorite color is red. And let's say you want this red, only this, oh that's cool, only this word here to be red. Now you can't just, if we made this paragraph in CSS, made this whole paragraph red, then the whole thing will be red, but we want only this to be red. So that's when the span tag comes in handy. Now the span tag, this is a tag meant to target words inside like paragraphs or something. So here we can give it an ID or probably class, because we will probably want different elements to be also red. And obviously it's not going to be red because we don't have styling yet, but if we did, we can target it using this class. And this also means that if we want this one to be red, I can space and then go red. So that's also another thing. If you want to assign two classes to an element, basically leave a space. And this also says that a class can't have a space as its name. Alright guys, so I guess that wraps up this tutorial. I hope you've learned something and you kind of know and understand what HTML is and how to use it. And stay tuned for the CSS tutorial, as that will make this website look a lot better by adding styles and making it look just tremendous. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, and I hope you'll continue to learn and have fun. See ya.